Hello again. I'm here in my studio today to talk to you about my sketchbook practice. So anyone who's been around for a while on the blog or on social media knows that sketchbooking has been a big part of my creative process. I've always kept sketchbooks throughout my art career. So I've pulled out a stack from my bookshelf to share with you today. So I've got a range of sketchbooks here. They go from maybe 2014, there's one, maybe a bit earlier, all different shapes and sizes. And I thought I'd just talk a bit about the types of sketchbooks I've used over the years, why I use a sketchbook, how I use my sketchbook, and share some pages from in those sketchbooks. Something I'll be honest about up front, these are not beautiful sketchbooks. For me, the process of using a sketchbook is about developing my own creative practice. They're not art pieces in and of themselves, and it's important to me to give myself permission to just produce whatever in the sketchbook without any pressure on it being beautiful or good, or it's my space to play, experiment, practice, grow and learn. And there are a lot of pages that are quite ordinary, very ordinary I should say. So we've all seen those sketchbooks on Pinterest where every page is stunning as the artist flips through the whole sketchbook. That's not what these are. So there's a few ways in which I use a sketchbook. The first way is familiarising myself with subject matter for a new artwork or a new artwork series. So this is about considering a subject, something I want to cover in my artwork, and then getting to know it through drawing. So lots of drawings, lots of different angles, drawing it in different styles. As I draw a subject, say for example recently I drew a lot of magpies. First I draw very carefully from nature, from photos and reference material. As I get more familiar with it, I can use a bit more artistic license and show the bird from different angles and pick and choose the elements of the bird that I most want to capture, that I think are most important to capture. This happens through a process of drawing in my sketchbook, and I consider it very important to my creative process. So the other way I like to use a sketchbook is drawing practice. So the first way was familiarising myself with the subject matter, but there's also just the ongoing practice of drawing. If I haven't drawn for a while, opening up a sketchbook again can be quite daunting and feels really hard. Whereas maintaining a regular drawing process makes it so much easier to sit down and draw. And to achieve what I want to achieve in my drawings. So one way I've done a lot of drawing practice is, especially when my kids were little, is to take my sketchbook wherever I go, to a doctor's waiting room, to the playground, whenever we would go out. That gave me the chance to sit and draw the children while they were playing at the playground, or even sit and draw with the children in a cafe, whatever we felt like. It's a really good way to fill in short periods of the day. And it's a good alternative to scrolling on your phone. So anyone who's trying to kick a phone habit, maybe keep a little sketchbook in your handbag. Something like this is perfect. Perfect for doing little 2-minute sketches, little quick captures, even capturing notes while you're on the go. So another way I use sketchbooks is for nutting out ideas for new artworks. So this goes beyond familiarising myself with the subject matter and is more about playing with what do I actually want to say in my artwork, what elements do I want to include, and kind of collating those elements in my sketchbook, jotting down any notes that are helpful, and then playing with combining all those components into rough design ideas. So this is where thumbnail sketches come in. That's where I'll do a whole bunch of really quick and rough composition ideas for an artwork, potential composition ideas. You can churn through a lot of those and get a real sense of oh, I like that idea, I don't like that idea so much, and it helps you to work through that without investing too much time, and then I can come back later and go through more detailed design ideas before I come to my final design option. So that also happens in my sketchbooks. Another really big use for sketchbooks is developing illustrations. So I actually I'll share this one. This is a little, very thin, very, I guess, low-cost sketchbook, and I like using some of these smaller ones because I can commit one sketchbook to one illustration project. In this book, I've been playing around with the idea of a series of illustrations or even a story about children exploring in the bush. And you'll see I've captured some really rough ideas and some notes along the way. So a lot of stick figures. There's a few thumbnails, more stick figures. Stick figures are great for capturing how characters might interact and engage with each other in the final illustration. It's also where I've played with what might the characters in these illustrations actually look like. What's their hairstyle? What do they wear? Who else is going to feature in the illustrations? Here's some birds, the magpie and the galah, and some insects. So it's a really good way to just slowly formulate a new illustration. And then it might be, here's more work on the children, but there might be pages around plants. Which plants would I like to include? What do they look like? And what style would I like to paint those or draw those plants in? And then another stage of the illustration development is thumbnails. Again, I spoke about thumbnails in relation to my textile artworks, but it's absolutely critical in my illustration work as well, that I just do really quick captures of what an illustration composition might be. And then when I've done a lot of those, I can go back and look those and see that's a strong composition, I'm going to develop that further, or not sure about that, what can I do to make it better? So developing illustrations takes up a lot of sketchbook space. This one, the sketchbook's not full. I did go and make 5, I think, illustrations based on these drawings. So those illustrations were actually done, beyond this point, they were done on my iPad. So one thing that I really love about my sketchbooks is going back through them. Going back through old sketchbooks is so inspiring for future artwork for me. Often there'll be little, even really rough sketches that I see again when I look back and go, oh, I love that. What can I do to make something out of that? Or maybe it'll generate a new artwork or a new illustration that looks nothing like the original sketch, but there was enough of a jog in there to get me going with new creative ideas. So a really great place for me to go back to if I'm feeling creatively stuck. Then I can pull out a bunch of sketchbooks and get completely inspired again. So let's talk about some of the sketchbooks I've used. Here are some early ones. I made these myself from a lot of vintage paper, including the cover is the vintage golden book covers. So I've cut them out of old broken books and used them as the covers, and then I've collated all kinds of paper that I had around the place, including stacks of old company paper that someone passed on to me at one stage. I cut off all the logos and used the rest of the paper. Pages from books. So this makes a really interesting sketchbook to get started in, because there's already a bit of mess and a bit going on in there before you even start drawing, which helps to deal with the panic you can feel when you open a brand new pristine sketchbook and think, oh, how's this going to go? So as an aside, that's another real value of keeping a sketchbook, is being able to see your growth as an artist, as a illustrator, my drawing growth over the years. That's pretty cool to see. It's pretty cool to go, well, I've learned something, and I'm continuing to grow and learn in my art practice. Another sketchbook I have used a few times, as in I have a few of these, is this Sean Tan sketchbook. There's a few different illustrations of his featured on the covers, and with this nice fabric binding. I don't know if there's just something weird about me, but I just like this format. It's not quite as tall and skinny as some of the other sketchbooks that you can get. And the paper's pretty good. So it's not watercolour level paper, but it is nice sturdy paper, and you can do a bit of light watercolour work on there. So yeah, that's a really good quality book, just not necessarily available everywhere. So I've picked it up in art gallery shops and in some independent bookshops. I do like to always have one of these in the cupboard for when I feel it's right for whatever I'm busy with. And then I've used Moleskine books. So these come in different options, different sizes, and also different paper weights. So this is an actual Moleskine sketchbook, and it's got really thick paper. And then I also use their here we go, just, I don't even know what they're called, but they're maybe just plain notebooks. So still no lines, but the paper is much thinner, like really thin. So these are perfect for keeping notes and for doing pencil work, but not for painting and, you know, more intense work, and not if you're after a heavy paper. What I don't love about Moleskine, especially this book, is how tall and skinny it is and how yellow the papers are. I don't know why they're that yellow, and I don't love it. Then I have a couple of little square sketchbooks that I've used, and what I love most about these is the shape and the size. They are perfect for slipping in even a tiny handbag and taking with you wherever you go. So one of the sketchbooks I use currently is this one. This is my own sketchbook. I had it custom made to share with you all through my website, and it's got one of my eucalyptus illustrations on the front. I like, obviously, because I wouldn't have designed it if I didn't like it. What I love about this is the dimensions. For some reason, I like a book that's a bit wider than, say, standard A4 kind of proportions. And I also don't want it as big as A4. So this is still a good size page. It's got heaps of pages in. This is in the same vein as the larger Moleskine book I shared with you, in that the paper's reasonable, but it's not watercolour paper. It's not paper for doing anything wet on. So no watercolour, aquarelle, pencils. But perfect for incorporating lots and lots and lots of notes and rough sketches and nutting out ideas and thumbnails, and you're not going to fill it too quickly. So I have one, this is a plain unused journal, but I take one of these whenever I'm heading out and I think I might be waiting somewhere. I grab this book. So that's where I will do a lot of planning, all that planning for illustrations, planning for new collections, and you can imagine once it's full, that's a whole lot of ideas, image ideas captured in one volume. So that's available on my website if any of you are interested in that. Then my favourite range of sketchbooks for anything including watercolour, any mixed media work, is the Stillman and Birn series. I've got 3 right here. So I've got some square ones, and then I've got the larger format. These books are a really good compromise between you know, the previous sketchbook I showed you, where you get lots of pages and really good value for the number of pages, the amount of work you can capture in one book, versus the true watercolour sketchbooks, which have very thick pages and not very many pages, and they feel, actually, because of the price, way too precious to use. This book is a good compromise. You know, the flip side of having a sketchbook of this quality is that I don't want to fill it with all my rough pencil sketches and note taking, and that just feels like a waste of really good paper to me. So that's why I like to work in the two versions of sketchbooks, the cheaper serviceable version, and then the version with the paper that works really well for painting. So what do I do in my sketchbook? I do a combination of things. As I mentioned, I do a lot of pencil drawings. That's when I'm really getting to know my subject matter. I like to play with watercolour. There's just something about a brush loaded with watercolour that's just very free. Well, you can see there's some patterns here made with watercolour. Here, this is just doodling with watercolour. It just has a whole other feel to it than drawing with pencil. And there'll also be pages where I do an actual watercolour picture. Here, for example, a sketch that started as a pencil drawing and then was coloured in with a bit of watercolour added. Quite loosely. There's nothing perfect about this, and then I've gone in again with colour pencil. I also like to play with collage. So here, this piece of paper is some vintage book illustrations cut into an interesting shape and layered together with some watercolour work. Or I'll include some of my bits of fabric that I've screen printed, kind of the offcuts that still have cool little bits of paint on them. It feels like a waste to throw them away, so I like to incorporate them in my sketchbook work sometimes. So I don't think I'm alone in kind of going back and forth as to how best to use my sketchbooks. You will have even seen it in the books I've shared. I have gone a bit back and forth between, do I keep one sketchbook per project or one sketchbook per theme? Or do I just do all my work and working out in the one sketchbook, sort of as a very chronological capture of all the work I'm doing? And there's other options too. And I've really gone back and forth over the years. I have over the years said, okay, I'm working on a botanical series of artworks, and I'm also developing some childhood artworks. So I'll keep the two sketchbooks separate, but that didn't really work for me because often I'm sketching on the go. I'm sketching in the lounge amongst the family, or especially when the children were younger, in a cafe or in the playground, and I didn't want to take 5 sketchbooks with me. I just wanted to have one sketchbook where I could just continue with my progression of creative thoughts on whichever project took my fancy on the day, in the moment. I have the same dilemma. Do I keep a sketchbook for my textile art and then a separate sketchbook for my illustration work? Because I am conscious that they are different styles. Illustration work is more light-hearted and more juvenile, I guess. More the children I draw for illustration work are more stylised, whereas if I'm incorporating children in my artwork, I don't want them to look like cartoon characters. I want them to look like real children, so that there is a different focus. But again, I've come to the conclusion that it's best not to separate them out and to just work through mostly chronologically. I do challenges in my sketchbooks, the drawing challenges. So I might... one year I did Inktober. I don't know if that's here. Let's have a look. Yeah, so these pages in this sketchbook when I was doing the Inktober drawing challenge. So there was a new prompt every day, and I did a drawing a day based on those prompts, and I did them in the sketchbook. Sometimes that means a page where you've got rough working out, just a pencil sketch, and then the final illustration on the other side. Other days I would just go straight into the final illustration because it was just a challenge. It wasn't a major art commission. But for some drawing challenges, it then works to have a dedicated sketchbook. So at the moment, I'm also working in this book, which comes from Kiki K, and it's a 365-day journal, but it's a blank journal, so I'm using it for drawing. Again, it's not good quality paper. It's not watercolor quality paper. It doesn't take well to paint or glue or anything like that. But in this case, I'm doing it anyway because this sketchbook is just about the process of drawing and the practice of drawing every day. So it's got all sorts in there. It's got pencil sketches, and it's got watercolor, and it's got some collage, and it's got a bit of acrylic paint as well. I don't really care how messy it gets. This is about the process of doing a drawing every day, basically no matter what. So that's one sketchbook that I currently have set aside for a particular purpose. So that is for my drawing a day project. Anything else is happening, excuse me, any other drawing is happening in so currently any other sketchbook work I'm doing is happening either in my mixed media sketchbook, my Stillman and Birn sketchbook, or it's happening in my regular working sketchbook. So maybe we'll take another look at this sketchbook where I did a lot of work developing a series. I'd say this has actually got a few illustration projects in it. Earlier in the book is the work I did when I was taking an illustration class with Lila Rogers, and we were not just developing the illustrations, we were also developing the story. So I've got a lot of written notes here, which is quite unusual for my sketchbooks. Playing with some style ideas. Here's some fun pages where I've worked on more detail on a potential book layout and thumbnails for each page. At a glance, it's a mess, but there's so much valuable information captured here, and yeah, a super valuable sketchbook spread. And then you have some mapping out for a potential artwork collection. I'll often kind of draw out the range of sizes I'd like to include in that collection. So there's some artwork interspersed with illustration work here. Alright, so here's a new illustration project. This was again for a class with Lila Rogers. So lots of pages of developing a character. In this case it was a firefly. You can see how many pages are just filled with developing an illustration scenario, characters, who they are, what they can do, and then where they live as well, which is coming up still. Lots of pages of posing, thinking about what else exists in the character's environment, including fellow, like friends, other characters.